welcome to Future Commerce, the podcast about cutting edge and next generation commerce. I'm Philip, and today I'm joined by Rachel Cohen, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of SNOWE, a digitally native vertical brand who's making waves, and I can't wait to hear more about the story. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
For people who aren't familiar with SNOWE, tell us a little bit about what the brand is and tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like many other brands nowadays, it actually starts with our own story. So we started SNOWE because it was myself and my co-founder, Andres, and we were a couple. So we met in grad school. We were moving back to New York, setting up our place together, going through that process for the first time as a couple. And we realized really quickly that the process itself was so terrible. We were going to all the large retailers that were affordably priced and much more ubiquitous in quality and design than we were looking for. And then nothing was speaking to us. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there were the high-end department stores, both online and offline, where things were out of our price range, out of 99% of the population's price range. And really, there wasn't anything that we found that we could afford. But then besides that, there was so much product. We felt we were sifting through so many different things. So that's what also made the process so bad. It's like you would walk into a store and felt like product was falling on your head. There was no experience. I had 1,000 tabs open when I was trying to figure out what everything was. So it was really threefold where we saw the opportunity, where one, we wanted to make luxury quality, what we call home essentials, at disruptive prices. And then secondly, we wanted to simplify the whole experience of shopping for the home. So that meant everything from an edited assortment, designing single products for people to choose from, not a whole host of products, as well as all the way through to the user experience on site and when you receive the product. And then the last thing for us was there wasn't a brand that spoke to us in the home space. So this was, call it, when we came up with the idea about 6 years ago, the space was very different, the landscape was very different. There were all these older home brands that were stodgy and stale, and I could think of all these other brands in beauty and fashion and all these other verticals that really spoke to me, that spoke to my partner in a way that home brands didn't. So we saw the opportunity to build a lifestyle brand in the home space.
Would you say that SNOWE itself has a known brand, or is it an imposed aesthetic, or is it sort of fluid as times and tastes change, that you're sort of adapting to that as time goes?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because we actually played around with that a lot at the beginning, where we thought these are the jeans and white t-shirt of the home, the staples that were kind of your basics that could elevate a whole look. But we really wanted to encourage customers to mix and match their own personal style on top of it. You know, you think about it with fashion, you throw on flip-flops, it's more casual. The same, and you add, you know, a dressy pair of shoes, like that totally changes the look. And that can totally do that within home and with the products that we offer. So we thought about it that way. But as the brand evolved and as we've grown, and especially as we've grown into physical retail spaces, we've taken on a point of view as a brand. And that's more just to say, this is our point of view. Customers understand the consistency that they're going to get. And then that could be the aspirational part of the brand, but we still encourage them to use it in their own way and with their own style.
You mentioned your customer. Who is your customer?
Yeah. Our customer is really interesting, and it's been, I wouldn't say totally surprising, but I think a delight for us that it ranges in terms of age groups. So I think a lot of times, you know, nowadays we're always talking about this millennial customer. And for us, it's less about a millennial customer, more about what we call a millennial mindset, where, you know, customers want better quality products. They care about what they're putting in their body, what they're putting on their body. So how does that translate to home? The food that you eat, as well as the plate that you're eating it on, or the sheets that you're sleeping on. So they really care about quality. They care about things that will last, a lot more around quality over quantity. So we see that as part of the value system. Sustainability is a big value that our customers resonate with. but it totally ranges in age. So we have everyone from an aspirational millennial customer who's setting up their home for the first time and might be dipping their toe in one of our categories, buying some towels or sheets for the first time, all the way through to, Gen X and baby boomers, where there's buying power. They also want brands and products that they can really resonate with. So we see this whole host of age demographic. And then the other thing that's been really important to us is having this gender neutral conversation. So typically home was very female focused, and we said, why should it alienate a design conscious male or just any male in general or anyone? How do we have this conversation where everyone is a part of the conversation? And we see that in our demographic splits as well, which is encouraging.
You made the DNVB power list on 2 p.m. I don't know if you know that, or if you even know.
I had heard, but right. Pointing that out.
Webb Smith is a friend of the show. Yeah. We respect him a lot. And I just love looking up the rankings. It's interesting to be on that list. Would you consider yourself to be digitally native? What is the story around the way that you're kind of going to market? Most everybody has e-commerce nowadays, but what do you think is sort of differentiator in the space amongst a category that's full of brick and mortar?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And for us, we started as a digital first brand, but we always knew that we wanted some sort of offline component. And I think the thing that we weren't sure about was how that was going to translate, how that was going to manifest itself. And also, if we were trying to do too much too early on, then we couldn't do all of it well. So what we did was we launched first online. We learned a lot about our customer. We learned a lot about our brand, talking about our point of view, who we wanted to be, how we wanted to portray that. And then we did it in an iterative process, because definitely for home, brick and mortar or physical retail spaces are a big part of our brand now, our customer journey, as well as where we see the evolution of the brand going. And I think a lot of that is because it's a very tactile experience. People love to touch and feel the product in person. And then the other thing is they want to be immersed in the brand experience as well as guided through. There's a lot of guidance and material and education that goes into it. Even things like, call it sheets that are neutral in color or design. There's still a lot of things that go into the provenance and the craftsmanship that even if you portray it online and do a really amazing job, it doesn't really replace that in-person experience and having someone guide you through that. And that's where we see that our customers want us to be, so that's where we started evolving to.
I like to think of myself as a highly evolved online purchaser. And while I was in Boston here this week, I was able to visit the brick and mortar of one of my favorite brands, Tracksmith, which is a running, like a heritage running brand. I buy a lot of things online. I didn't want to buy running clothes online. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to get the fit. I wanted to see what I looked like in it before I purchase. And I assume that there's a certain type of customer that you have who the aesthetic is important, but the experience of the feel and the touch is just as important as well. So how are you solving that challenge with your customer?
Yeah, so I think, that was a lot of what we were learning. By speaking to our customer, that's how we can get so much data, right? That's the beauty of being direct to consumer and learning from our customers. And we had customers constantly asking, where can I come see this in person? So at the beginning, we were doing trunk shows, or we were taking over lofts in different cities to get people to be able to come and touch and feel in person. And we would see how many customers would show up, and it was amazing to see. So we also did, our first iteration was what we called the white space. That was a shoppable loft that wasn't street level, but it was all the product in situ. And we partnered with different design brands that we love. It was also attached to mine and Andres's home, which is a little bit crazy, some people may say. But
I think that's innovative, actually.
It was so natural for us, right? SNOWE is an extension of us and how we live with the product, and it's very natural. And I think that's what customers are looking for in person. They want to see just how can they incorporate it into their own environment? How can they be inspired by, how to make things come to life in their space? And that's what we use the white space as, this retail lab, we called it, where it was a testing ground where customers would come and we would see what resonated with them, and then we were able to expand to the street level after that.
So when you're looking at street level, what are there strategic markets that you're looking to launch into, or tell us a little bit about how you choose, that strategy.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question and something that we're continuing to evolve and learn as we get more data. We started in New York, so for us, not only was it a large market and where our team was based, it just made sense as an extension of the brand and where we're headquartered. So we had tested a pop-up after the white space. We did a pop-up in Soho the end of 2017, and then more recently we launched in the Flatiron District in Manhattan. So that store has been open and will be open through early next year, which has been a phenomenal brand touch point and experience. But what we then did, expanding outside of Manhattan a couple of weeks ago, or I guess now it's months, we opened at the beginning of the summer in the Hamptons, so in Southampton. And
and the time of year is perfect.
the time of year is perfect. It's when a lot of people out, are coming not just from New York, but are traveling from all over and going there for the summer. But it's also a really great market in the sense that people are setting up second homes or homes outside the city. And there really wasn't anything we found within the market besides shopping online where they could really go and set up their home with all of the essentials. So what was interesting for us was, how do we now take a localized approach and say, even though it's still New York and even though there's going to be an overlap of customers, how do we create an in-store experience that's innovative and localized to the market that it's in, and create that environment that will be totally different than if a customer goes to Flatiron as well.
So it's not that a SNOWE customer is a SNOWE customer is a SNOWE customer. There's some regionalization of the product assortment and selection.
Absolutely, and the different brands we partner with who will come in for the weekends. We want it to be that localized experience, and that's how we're thinking about the expansion. So how do we think about what that next city might be, and then take a localized and innovative approach?
What in a category that is, flooded right now with a lot of upstarts that are very narrow on selection. You'll have bath only, bedding only. You seem to have a very broad category and selection. Tell me a little bit about that. Are there challenges in that space to sort of maintaining the category, the broad category? It seems like that whole home approach is working for you. Tell me a little bit about that choice.
Yeah, so for us, we went multi-category out of the gate. So we started with 4 key categories: eat, drink, sleep, and bathe. You just named some of them. So we named them behaviorally, how you kind of live with the product. But that was dinnerware, flatware, glassware, bed linens, and bath linens. And we took that very calculated approach to go multi-category, in the sense that the way you shop for fashion or certain other products is very different than the way you shop for home. And this was our hypothesis at the beginning, where if we're going to simplify the experience of shopping for the home by just offering towels or just offering a single product, you're not really providing that same solution. And what we found is, when we were doing the research, customers wanted a destination so that they knew aesthetically things would go together and look great, but also you're making these decisions at a time when there's often a whole host of other decisions that are happening too. You might be cohabitating or getting engaged or married, moving. So it's this confluence of all these decisions that it's almost like the paradox of choice. So that was a lot of the reason for the simplification that we went multi-category. But the other part of it was just from a business fundamental standpoint. Nowadays, like you said, there's a proliferation of a lot of single category products, but at the same time, there was not a high frequency of purchase necessarily in these categories. So we wanted to think through, how do we encourage a quick repeat purchase? How do we not just pay to acquire a customer, but have a breadth of products that they'll want to come back for, and think about, what is that customer lifetime value? How do we also build a brand around content that's engaging and interesting, where the customer is going to want to have that conversation with us? So all of those things went into why we decided to go multi-category.
You said something that triggered an area of my brain that the home is the things that are in your home are really a product or are hallmarks of the time in your life and your living and cohabitating situation. That really is fascinating because I had never thought about that before. It's an evolving thing.
It's totally an evolving thing, and I think, quite candidly, there were some surprises for us, of course, right, around our hypotheses. And one of the things we didn't anticipate was that so many people would be making these purchases when they were moving, as much as they are. I think we thought about the life events, about cohabitating, or yes, there are certain things that happen when you move. But as we've learned so much more about our customer and the behavior behind our customers, the mindset is often, okay, if I'm moving in 6 months, I'm just gonna wait so that I can leave everything behind and start fresh. And we thought it would be that way with furniture because it needed to fit within a certain space. But we find that it's that same way with the essentials we're offering as well.
Let's talk a little bit about challenges. So one thing that we hear from what we might have called pure play e-commerce at one point in time, it's DNVBs now, thank you to Bonobos. But this direct-to-consumer customer acquisition strategy tends to be an expensive one, especially if you're playing heavily in social. A lot of folks are spending a tremendous amount of money, and it seems to be like this rising customer acquisition cost, rising CAC is a concern for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you're acquiring customers and how you're combating that and trying to, I guess the strategy, not to pontificate more, but the strategy of encouraging repeat purchase might be one way to battle against that. So maybe you could touch on all those points and tell us how you're combating that at SNOWE.
Yeah, I think what we tried to do from the onset, and I think what gave us a bit of a competitive advantage around diversifying a marketing stack, was the fact that we had multiple categories, and the entry point for the products or categories are different for each of the categories. So you were asking before if it was more challenging. There are certainly things that are more challenging because you're dealing with more data and trying to sift through all of it. But once we started really diving into it, we were able to keep this diversified marketing stack because we can be where the customers were at different points in time, at different points in their journey. So we definitely, we're doing a whole host of top of funnel marketing activities, some of which you've mentioned, but, paid social and things of that nature, costs are rising, right? Affiliate is another, channel that is, from a digital aspect, has been really, really great for us. But we're doing all of these things not only for brand awareness, but to get people into the funnel. And then we were able to learn and then test even further. So direct mail is something that we started testing into, I'd say, about 12 months ago, and has been a really great channel for us.
You're like the third person to say that in the last month.
I don't doubt it. It's like, what's
don't give away the secrets, right?
I know. Now we're going to tell everyone. Now those costs are going to rise.
It might be an interesting strategy to try to manage your Facebook costs going in an ongoing basis. Get everybody to go back to direct mail. Sorry to interrupt.
No. Yeah. But that's one thing where we can test not only for top of funnel and targeting and new customers, but also retention. Now that data and analytics and people are getting smarter, or the companies are innovating around what's happening, I think that's where you're seeing a lot of innovation with retention for direct mail as well. So we've been able to keep this diversified marketing stack, and it's also not underestimating what a store does for customer acquisition as well.
Right.
And for us, it's this constant challenge and conversation for, we're not doing it where it's just a billboard, because theoretically it is, and we're putting metrics around all of those. But the biggest thing we're trying to learn, and I'm sure I'm going to assume that this has come up at some point in time in the past few months, where attribution is the hardest thing, right? From offline to online, and what that customer journey is. And as we're getting smarter and smarter, we're able to understand what that is. But again, going back to the beginning, a lot of it for us was being multi-category and then being able to keep this diversified marketing stack, so we didn't have all our eggs in one basket as well.
It's really, really fascinating. On the topic of challenges, we are called Future Commerce. So I usually ask our guests to predict the future a bit. If you were to look out 3 to 5 years, what are the kinds of challenges that you think that you may have to overcome? Just
Yeah.
to spark your brain a little bit, a few of our guests recently have said tariffs and manufacturing supply chain are going to be something they're going to have to battle over the next 3 to 5 years. I'm curious what SNOWE has to overcome for you to continue to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that's top of mind. Right now, we're not dealing with that as much because we're sourcing all of our partner manufacturers are in Europe and the US. So there's different challenges that we're seeing because of that. But I think the way we think about it and the challenges that we think and pretty much know we'll face, right, are how do we continue to innovate and stay ahead of where our customer wants us to be or is anticipating for us to be? And that's on the product side. So how do we continue to innovate in product where our products are basics at face value? So how do we focus on the innovation in materials and how you live with the product? And so an example of that was for our towels, it's a Japanese technology that traps the fibers with air, so it basically creates air pocketing. So it's this really lightweight towel, but it's really quick drying. So normally when you had a musty towel, it wouldn't dry. All of this innovation in materials that we focused a lot on before we even launched, how do we think about that as we continue to expand into product categories so there is innovation, and when customers live with the product, they understand what that difference is? So that's on the product side. For us, it's also on the brand side. How do we continue to not stagnate? How do we, there's so much content you have to create now. And it's almost like your media and content creation houses along with being a brand. So how do we do that on the digital side as well as physical in-person experiences? And then I also think technology is going to play a big part in it. So what is the technology that we need and we need to have a really sophisticated grasp on that might not have even launched yet, but to stay ahead of the curve, be it AI, be it something around data analytics, to really understand how we can continue to win in the future.
This is amazing. I really appreciate how candid you've been. I'm really a big fan of you, having just met you.
Oh, thank you.
And I love this story. I wish you so much success. And where can people find you online? LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and where can they shop for SNOWE products?
Yeah, so SNOWE products, it's SNOWE with an E, snowhome.com. Or you can go into one of our stores if you happen to be in the area as well. And then for our handles for SNOWE as well, everything's at SNOWE Home. So you can find us there on all social channels.